Hello, hello. Ah, embarrassing. Hello, hello. Can't believe this.
Is that working? There it is. All right. You know what? We're here. I'm not gonna do it again. I refuse.
I like that your chroma key is still active, though.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I see. I see it trying to like work in the background.
There's like
I see those flickers.
some carpet that's kind of green back there. Just
Yeah.
turn that off for now.
You know, it's funny that you haven't hung up your green screen. I today just actually hung on my green screen because my new mic finally got here.
Ooh.
My new fancy mic. However, I made a fuck up. I got the wrong cable adapter, and so I had to get a new one, which doesn't delay me at all because tomorrow I'm recording a video. Like I was gonna do it tomorrow because I have a lot more, uh, basically a bunch of house shit that is now like scheduling, working. It's a lot, and then tomorrow I'm completely open. I'm now gonna have this cable and a new mic, and I'm gonna record a video finally. I'll probably put it out soon because it's not even that complicated of a video. So I'm back. I got it all set up. I'm looking at it. I formulated how everything's gonna work, like what the style of it's gonna be. I also found out a method I could even make it easier if I put the work in with Streamlabs, because I could do the Streamlabs chroma key, because it turns out you can use your phone as a webcam source through a web page.
Oh.
So I could straight up chroma key my phone and use like the really nice like just let me do it for you thing that Streamlabs does. I could just do that. I'm probably gonna fiddle with it. I'm gonna fiddle with that tomorrow. Once I actually have all the stuff, because I have to like I want to hook everything up and see how it looks. Because I've already done visual, I just need to get audio set up. But yeah, tomorrow videos are gonna be back in production finally.
Oh, logged in. I have too many accounts for things. Alright. So. Nice. I was listening, I promise.
I getcha.
Yeah, hopefully you can get that. Honestly, I was going to, but literally yesterday, my mother-in-law came here and we went to the fair and we were there for like a good portion of the day. And then my mother came today. Granted, we haven't done anything with my mother yet, but today had to be our shopping day. So I've just have had no opportunity to get everything set up for recording pretty much since everyone left, other than the days that I took to like relax.
Granted, you haven't even needed it because you just had everything pre-recorded already. So.
I had a few pre-recorded. It's just I would have preferred to have gotten a video out at least like today. Like I usually do something Wednesday anyway, so that wasn't a big deal. But you know, so yeah, it's been a lot. And yeah, I haven't set my green screen up. If anyone who's joining in hasn't been able to figure out yet, that'll be up soon. I just need a day. I just need a day to do things. It's so...
Yeah, I get you.
You know what's crazy as well? I have so much to do, so much to talk about. Because literally, like, as the title of today's chat implies, Gencon was literally just the beginning of everything. Like, Player Core 2, huge. Honestly, the biggest thing for my channel since its inception. And that was just us getting a lot of the same stuff with some slight changes to some of the classes. Some classes more than others, but most of the game in general, relatively untouched. We have so many, like we have the Tiansha character guide, the War of Immortals, and Divine Mysteries all coming out in the next few months.
Like, I'm so excited. I want to know what's in Tiansha, like, so bad. We already have those, like, nice previews. I just want to see them more.
Hmm.
I really want Divine Mysteries, because they keep getting class ideas and then being like, ooh, that'd be fun. What if Divine Mysteries gives me a couple little goodies or repackages stuff just in a nicer capacity? I'm hopeful. And then
Right.
now I gotta be even more hopeful for War of the Immortals, because I'm playing a fucking Exemplar. And I'm like, all I gotta look at is the playtest. And granted, there's a lot of cool shit in the playtest, but I can't like really map out a build super hard because a lot of it's gonna change, or they're gonna have new shit. And I'm gonna plan it out, and then they're gonna like, hey, we added like a few more things, and I'm like, well, damn it, that fits my boy better. Which has been fun because I you saw I posted that little like summary of our rule zero, at least in my end,
Hmm.
and I think people are a fan of the character concept. I've
Yeah.
been getting interact like just mainly like because throughout that thread, it's people who like and retweet the first part, but then the only other part that's the other part that's getting like the most engagement is the part where I specifically say I am playing a animated plastic skeleton exemplar. People are like, oh, that sounds really fun. Because I am so pumped for that character idea. That sounds. I'm excited for Plague Watch more than I was already. I know how he's gonna operate. I just want to know how the class is gonna operate. Because there's some cool stuff in there, and I want to know what it's gonna be finalized.
Yeah. And yeah, Sing Maringen. I unfortunately all the stuff for the next few books is already done. It's already put out. So if there was any going to be a response to anything that came out for Oracle, it's not here. But hopefully they already have some plans, and I really hope we get more Oracle feats. I feel like if we can get more Cursebound feats, Oracle will be sitting a lot better. But until then, Oracle is very divisive, as it's been already, which is incredibly tragic. Honestly, I'm just ready for new Paizo stuff to come out. I'm ready for people to actually want to get into the game because now they feel like the game has fully, I guess, re-released, which was a thing that was hanging up a lot of people. And I think that a lot of the stuff they're coming out with are going to be really, really cool. So fingers crossed we get some really cool stuff in the next few books to kind of make up for some of the messiness that was Player Core 2.
I'm also just excited for. It seems like they're finally going to be adding real more class archetypes because we just don't have a lot, and if we're getting more, I'm there for it. I think it's
Yeah.
great designs like concept that they have and then just haven't done a lot with yet.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just we're always a couple years behind the design team as far as like what's coming out.
Yeah,
Cuz
exactly.
because up until this point it was okay, we want to do some new classes. We want to add some classes onto the game past the advanced players guide. So we have a book of magic, we have a book of guns and gears, we have the dark archive, and then we have kineticists. And now I think they're like, okay, we have a ton of classes. Hi, Gabriel. Now let's do some more character art, class archetypes, so that we can expand. Like, the best part about class archetypes is they just expand classes, and people are just as hyped about those as they are for some of the classes. So I think it's a great design space. I hope it's something they take more advantage of. And I think that a lot of what has been coming out makes a lot of sense for it up until this point. I think we've just now hit the point where our like Paizo's like, all right, let's get into gear. We don't have to invest a bunch of resources into player core anymore. We can now just do what we do best, which is pump out the content, which I'm happy to see.
I'm happy that they can work on stuff at their own pace with the stuff that they want without at least majorly in their heads, like the giant legal threat hanging over them, because that's definitely a real motivator in a lot of situations. And now that that's lifted, like that must be very freeing for a lot of stuff. And I hope it also is freeing just hour wise and money wise for them.
Yeah, exactly. And and speaking about new releases as well, Lancer finally getting some new content after quite a bit of time. It's mostly just another like adventure path, and that's kind of one of the sad things about the Lancer set is it's just a small team. It's a small team, and it's mostly focused on one person individual. Oh, weird. That popped up. It's not digital dropkick, is it?
Orbital dropkick.
Orbital dropkick. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's like one of the main two.
Yeah. So like stuff comes out slow, and we haven't really gained much of like an actual core like okay, here's some supplementary materials books. Like the Long Rim kind of, and Dustgrave kind of. But they've always been like, all right, here's a few new mechs and some stuff, and like of course mechs are kind of like full classes in a way, so their design time is a lot shorter or is a lot longer than like other stuff. But I wish we would get like more weapons. I wish we would get like access to new stuff. I wish it would put out more content for Lancer, I guess, which is kind of greedy to say, but like when we have Pathfinder on one side, it's very hard to be like, yes, getting a new thing once a year is great, you know? So
yeah, that, and because it is a small team, it's like a small team with a set few people who are also like working on Lancer, but it's not like their core thing.
right.
Because like they're the two people who are largely like working on it. I forget the other person's name. I have to go to my Lancer video notes. I think it's where it is. Because Orbital Dropkick has like so many other projects he's working on, like his webcomic, which is like super far in. He also has like multiple other tabletop games he's working on. He literally just announced a new one.
Yeah.
Like not even like, hey, reveal teaser. No, it's full out, like released. Then they also got
Tom and
Icon.
Miguel.
Yeah. And yeah, because I think it's Miguel who Miguel works at Wizards of the Coast, or at least he did at the point with Lancer's like largest stuff. Like they work in like just around there in that field. Like they both work on other tabletop projects. And I know some people apparently, because I follow Tom on Twitter.
Yeah, Tom is Orbital Dropkick, correct?
Yeah. And I follow him on Twitter, and apparently every time he like does something that's not Lancer, there's a chunk of people that get really mad at him.
Yeah.
Because it's like, where's the content? And he's like, we work on Lancer, but it's like we do other stuff. Like we're not just sitting around taking the money. Like we're not just ignoring everything.
Well,
like the game is what it is.
Even if they were taking the money, it's not like they didn't make a product that you bought. You bought the product.
Yeah.
It's not an early access nonsense. Like, I get it. But also, I want more Lancer. Plain and simple.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's fair for us to be like, I wish there was some more content for it. But also, like, I wouldn't want either of them to have their entire life only be Lancer. I'm really happy that both of them work on so many other things. Because I gotta say, that new game, the new game, I posted it in our chat in general in Bad Luck Gamer.
In our Discord.
Yeah,
where below in the description.
Exactly, you can join. It's called Kane. Yeah. It's the whole idea is very like Chainsaw Man, Jujutsu Kaisen, but also like found footage horror.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is the crossover with it. You're psychic warriors fighting sins, which are manifestations of human trauma, and it sounds super sick. and a lot of the skills work in a really interesting way. There's an ability that I saw in particular that's called Fury, if you're working with Ardents, which is like psychically like pyrokinesis. And how
Hmm.
the ability works is you can create a fierce blast of destructive energy at a location and range of blast area. Like you just make a big burst of fire. However, you get dice, extra damage dice, based on how many yeses you say to this set of questions. Are you willing to cause indiscriminate harm, not caring what you destroy, burn, or incinerate? And are you willing to let your anger control the outcome? Like the whole idea is like you are psychics, so mental control, mental like just I guess just the ramifications of using your mind as like a power set is really at play.
Hmm.
It seems super sick. But I am sad no big robots, obviously.
Yeah,
I want
obviously,
more big
like
robots. Like the whole like
we just want more big robots. Is that so much to ask?
exactly. I think it's one of the reasons. I mean, Lancer definitely with its big third party like community, it's definitely built out of some massive want from the community just to have more Lancer
Yeah.
in their lives.
I mean,
I understand.
be fair, that's why third party content is really huge for Lancer as well. So,
I think it's in a much nicer element than it is for like say D&D 5e.
well, D&D
Uh,
5e's third party content is because the game is broken and does not function under its own rule set. Uh, Lancer's like it works so well. People are like, ah, now if only there was more.
I think there is a large subsect of people that we would very vehemently disagree with that would claim that that reason is their reason for making D&D third party content. That they're like, I just want more things for 5e. I think 5e is a great game, which is why I designed it to the point where it's not 5e anymore. And then you're like, what are you talking about?
Oh boy, we're getting to the 5e bashing already. It's only been 20 minutes.
All right, that's the quota. I'm checking my little box in my calendar.
Alex is just planning ahead, you know.
I'm planning ahead. I have to. It's for our health.
Fair.
And I do think there is a different philosophy in when it comes to like how the actual game is. There's a difference in like a company kind of like not making content because it's like it doesn't make them money to make the thing. Like it literally doesn't produce money for Wizards of the Coast to create content for D&D. But then for Lancer, it's something they're working on, but they also have like other projects and they have lives, and it's something they're doing on the side in between their 5 other side projects. So like I don't judge them, and then everyone else just seems to be feverish for it, including me. I'm there too.
Yeah. I mean, like, I want more stuff for all my favorite games to come out, you know?
Yeah,
I'm
agreed.
always like, oh, Fabula Ultimate. I want more Fabula Ultimate content because I think it's really good. Uh, Lancer, you know, I mean, I got some videos. I was doing research today in the scant amount of time I had to get ready. The Gilgamesh is really, really cool. And some of the alternative frames, some are kind of cool. Some are, I'm a little bit more iffy on. The, what is it? Is the Phantom Fire? Which one was it? Is the, I think it was the Phantom Fire. It's for the Metal Mark. Amber Phantom Frame. There you go. It looks really cool, though. I do like the Amber Phantom Frame. Yeah, Gilgamesh is super versatile. I really like it. It's honestly, it feels like what the Everest would be if the Everest was turned into like a full-blown mech rather than a starter mech.
Yeah, the Amber Phantom looks way cooler than the Metal Mark.
Yeah.
I don't like the Metal Mark that much. The Amber Phantom looks a lot nicer.
I like how the Metal Mark works. I mean, art's always going to be, you know, individual preference. And hey, look, no toes. We're spared the Smith Shimano toesies.
I'm so proud of them.
For the Amber Phantom.
Okay. You know, the Gilgamesh, not my vibe. I do exactly see what you mean, though. And I think that is one of the more interesting man-holding gun mechs. I'm just like, you know my taste. I'm not a big
Well,
fan
again,
of man-holding gun.
whatever
Very cool.
they look like, they can be whatever you want in your game. That's just base art.
Yeah, base art-wise, when I look at that, because I know there's a new Horus mech that's happening, and that
Yeah,
mech
it
is literal
is
fucking peak.
the
It's the
Lycan.
Garyon.
No, it's the Lycan for its Manticore subversion.
Yeah, because I have not seen a lot.
Yeah, the Lycan is interesting, to say the least. It doesn't have the "I'm gonna kill you even if I kill myself" kind of mentality that the Manticore has, but it does have a "all right, I'm gonna kill you even if it kills me" in a slightly different way, where you kind of just lose all your defenses, but you get massive energy claws. So. Ooh, the Hecticanaries, which is a Baylor variant, which is Shadow of the Wolf book coming out soon. I did see you talk about that earlier, my man. Yeah. So I want more Lancer stuff. But also, I think some incredibly interesting news, and I would ask that anyone here as well just look up D&D 2024 on YouTube. And I want you to tell me if you find anything super hyped about the release of the book. Because I've been seeing some videos coming out, because the player's handbook was released during Gencon.
Oh. Oh, I guess yeah. There was an embargo, I guess, because I know they were striking people. Yeah, I gotta say, I looked at
Well,
D&D 2024, and then I see some thumbnails.
it's honestly, for the next D&D 2024 edition, there is just not a lot of hype. Some videos, admittedly, have been getting some good views. But for a game that, like, for some of its better performing channels, does 100K views, people just don't seem so excited for what is essentially the next biggest drop for D&D.
I'm very curious to see how it transfers, because I wonder if like part of it is because I don't know. I don't know if it's just because like if there's something just so baked into D&D 5e online that like that's just kind of the thing. And so if like D&D 2024 and the robots are like, what's that? That must be a different game. Give me that 5e stuff. I don't know, but also like I look at some of the popular content and I see like a good chunk of either this thing sucks or like all the changes. And it's like, okay, business as usual, I guess.
Yeah, it's
Nothing
just,
super crazy.
it's more like a numbers thing, because all the stuff D&D was putting out has gotten like over 100K views, but very few of the highest performing channels, the only one I've seen so far has been Pointy Hat, who is a big D&D content creator, has really met similar metrics. The Dungeon Dudes have been crushing the content, but they seem to be the only ones. And of my own personal opinion, I don't know D&D well enough Oh, and there's also D for D&D Deep Dive, who did a video that did really, really well. So I've seen 2 so far, who kind of hit what I would assume would be worthy of the biggest release in the biggest tabletop game right now. It just seems bizarre. It just seems strange that this hasn't been a whole lot. And I think a lot of people know why it hasn't been a whole lot. It's been because they changed the game. Most people care about Treant Monk's opinion when it comes to 5e. A lot of people do. But the thing is like, they did change the game in some ways, and some things have been changed differently. But that's the thing. It's just changes. It's just... It doesn't feel like anything new, which, to be fair, wasn't what they were marketing for. But it doesn't... It feels like, if I was to compare the hype of Pathfinder to the hype of D&D 2024, like Player Core 2 versus D&D 2024. Obviously, none of the Pathfinder videos hit over 100k views, and I would say, on average, they were less than what these D&D videos have been getting. But when you consider that D&D is probably 5 magnitudes or more popular than Pathfinder 2nd Edition, the numbers start not adding up. I would say Pathfinder numbers have been about a third to a fourth, maybe, of what D&D had. And on average, they're more 1-for-1. Like, of many channels out there, they're getting about as many views as the Player Core 2 videos did, the highest performing ones.
I genuinely wonder, like, how much this could have been a bigger boom, maybe, or even like got generated just a lot more hype if they buckled down, maybe just like for once in their lives, and maybe just like made a new class.
Or include the new class they did add into the new D&D 2024.
Just just give like the new content, man. Like, because that was the thing that made the Pathfinder remaster, like, I think a lot better of a project, because I think inherently it was very much like, hey guys, we know this is a little bit disruptive to the game, like, we get it. To make up for it, we're going to bump some stuff up, we're gonna change some stuff around, we're going to make it worth it. And I think they succeeded on a lot of that, and got around a lot of the element that is just like, god damn it, what's that feat called now? And I think that's like the big hurdle that it is working with. But then for D&D 2024, it's like, yeah, this is just kind of what we've been rolling with anyways, except in the core book you took away content, actually. That's really what happened. Like, subclasses were taken out of D&D 2024 for like the core book. Like, wizards have 3 subclasses. Same with every class knows 3. So like all the cleric ones, all the wizard stuff, it's like, oh, okay, so like maybe like, because in D&D stuff, there's a couple of stuff that even I can like find some fun in. Transmutation wizard is kind of sick. Like, not gonna lie, I like transmutation wizard's abilities. They're really fun and really, really cool. But like, I don't think transmutation wizard is in D&D 2024, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm going to refrain from giving any opinions because I literally just don't know. I was actually looking to pick up a copy of D&D 2024 because I thought it'd be interesting to review on the channel. And then honestly, I looked in, I did some research through other channels, see what other people were talking about, and they were speaking Greek to me. Like, so many of the stuff they were talking about, or the overall like knowledge on the meta and everything, I'm just so uninformed when it comes to D&D nowadays that I don't feel like I can give a solid like opinion that I feel like would be justifiable to it. What I can do though is look at who's talking about it, and look at what people are saying, and look at the numbers, and be like, it seems strange to me that the biggest TTRPG on the market, by far, no competition, had such a comparatively lukewarm release for what essentially is... Oh my god. Did that just change? Thank you, Singamoran, for the follow. But why did my alert box change?
That's the Plague Watch theme.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why it's different on this set.
That's weird.
That's super weird. Because I liked my old one. I liked my, I think it's like called Witchfire or something, alert box. And I don't know why it changed. It's also super loud. Yeah, I don't know why it does that. Interesting. I'm going to have to adjust that. I'm also going to turn its volume down if I can do so. I don't know why it changed. Media. There we go. I'm upset by that. Anyway, sorry about getting distracted. It's just interesting to me, really. I don't want to say necessarily it means like the downfall of D&D 5e or anything like that. But I do feel like the energy around D&D has been waning pretty heavily. And D&D 2024 was really the chance to essentially release another Madden. Like, I don't understand why Wizard of the Coast doesn't do the Madden thing, to be honest. People love new content. They like new classes. They like doing new things in their games, whether it's a TTRPG or not a TTRPG. Like, so many people think that tabletop players are poor and never buy anything, which that's so factually untrue. I know, because the sheer number of y'all who just buy dice regularly or figures or whatever, like, it's...
And like, if it sounds like from what they want to do is move D&D to a digital landscape, so then they can actually like make a profit, which is then that's the perfect landscape to do that, like exactly that type of thing, because like their big issue, which is as much as they've said, is D&D is under monetized, because like the scale that they're operating at, they just are like, damn it, people buy a book one time and then they share it with like 5 other people. This is the worst. And like, because you know, myself, I bought a core book, and I bought like the DM guide, and I've never used it, and then because it's worthless, and then I bought Descent to Avernus. Those are the 3 D&D products I have paid for throughout like the 6 years or so I was playing 5e. It was like, that's it. And that's a lot of money in the grand scheme. But they could just make more. But the problem, I think, is, and I understand it if like D&D 2024 is such a lukewarm reception, is because like they spent the beginning announcement of it changing the name 3 times.
Right.
They spent as well, alongside the name change, changing what it even was conceptually, so people just didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Right.
They then also, from everything I've been seeing and have stayed at least somewhat informed on, all of this is like essentially taking away your toys, packing it up, and calling it an improvement.
Yeah.
Just like, this is a game marketed as like infinite imagination and you can do anything, and then how do they re-release and fix the game that lets you be anyone and do anything? Well, they take away the stuff that allows you to be anything. And then they make it so then the big issues that everyone had, they made them worse because they made Ranger worse somehow.
Yeah.
Is like the big takeaway that everyone's having too. They borked Paladin because they're like, Paladin's too strong. They only smite. All right, let's make it so bonus actions will only ever be used on smites.
Yeah.
Because like, because we're gonna make that a smite, and then we're gonna make all these other actions bonus actions. And it's like, okay, cool. You made this so much lamer, and it's bad. And I think one of the elements of it, and I just don't think realistically they're going to be in that situation to make new stuff for a while. Because it's all the talks that we saw and have even gone over on TableTalk, where they've just openly kind of said, hey, we're terrified of making new content. Every time we've tried recently to make something new, you guys kind of hate it. And it's like, yeah, that is true, because they tried to make the Mystic and no one liked it. And so I think they've built in their heads this like culture of, well, we can't make new content because people will fight back about it. And if we make brand new stuff and change the game too much, it might lose the cash cow. And so, like, damn, what do we do? How do we change the game without changing it too much? Which is such a lame position to be in. And then also that same talk, the one on the like panel, where the only situation where they were like, I guess we can make these rule changes, was because Baldur's Gate 3 came up with them first.
Right.
And they're like, okay, so these ones are liked,
People like
and if we
these.
put them, and if we put them in the game, people won't stop buying our stuff. Cool. So we can put them in. They seem terrified. I gotta be real. Like, that's the vibe I get whenever I hear them in like their creative process. It seems like they're scared to make new shit.
Right.
Which I think is honestly an understandable outcome of being the top dog in the tabletop space. You take a crumble and the thing might fall down because people can play D&D without paying money. And these people paying money is out of love for your IP.
Yeah, I don't know. I disagree because the number one thing that people love and talk about D&D all the time is third-party content. And you know what that third-party content is? Like 90% of the time? Well, I guess if we disclude some of the basic, like 60% that is actually just fixing the game. But if we're talking about like stuff getting added, it's like new classes, new subclasses, new weapons, all this other kind of stuff. Like, people have been asking for since pretty much the beginning, fix the rules, give us new shit.
I think you are thinking too logical for this and not through the mind of a scared executive looking at the possibility of their tower falling over.
I mean, you could say that literally about anything. Like, seriously.
That is the truth of most things.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, there are visible, obvious models that do well. And they literally pay people to look at these things and tell them what works and doesn't work. And then I guess do nothing about it.
Yes. That's where I come to the outcome, because I see the same calling cards in film stuff. Because a lot of these actions they're making are very similar to a lot of film executives. Because these are very like, if we fuck around too much and play this too unsafe, we'll do this. But it's like, well, the logical situation is to release new stuff. And then when the times they've tested it, then there's part 2 of the point. I think that their core design team, which is like the heads, fucking what's their face, Jeremy Crawford or whatever, I just don't think they're that great anymore. I think they kind of lost their touch, because I know when Mystic came out, it was actual trash. Like, it was like, what the fuck is this? Like, this sucks.
I mean,
and they've done that a good few times where they've put out a thing, and it's like, the only time it's considered good is really, oh, this is just overpowered. You just made something busted. And like, that's not a mark of quality.
I don't know. I mean, at the end, it's baffling, and it's baffling to the audience, which, like, is the thing that should be paid most attention to. and people have been saying
100%.
it a lot. So I yeah, never mind. Perkins coming out with the barbarian should have just been a fighter subclass. Yeah, that also made me lose a lot of respect for him. True.
It was that large talk that made me read through it and be like, I just don't think they know what they're doing, and I think they're scared of making new things. Because the entire bit of the language was him going through is like, well, these classes are basically all just the same thing. And it's like, no, they're not though. No, they're very different in like what they
Yeah.
all do. Even in the simple like play styles they all have in D&D of all games. And then you then build like read further, and he's just like, we like to make new stuff, but whenever some of the times we have made new stuff, people really slap back at us. Last time we did was Mystic. And you're like, when did Mystic come out? That was like what,
I
5
never
years
even
ago or
knew that
something?
Mystic came out, quote unquote.
Oh yeah, no, they heavily tested Mystic. It was like a while ago, and it was so panned that it Mystic is canceled. It's not. They're not making new classes anymore. Like it was that much. Like Mystic just was a mess. From what I remember, it was a class that was both like these are really strong overpowered options, and then other options that just don't work together like at all. It's just like there's no cohesion in the class in any regard. And it's just like what the fuck is going on here? And it was such a bad like reception. I think it scared a lot of them off from making anything new and major, because it's only then after that he then was started talking about like maybe we just don't need new classes. It's like, okay, I see.
I don't know. I disagree. I don't think it's something where I think if anything it's an incompetence thing more than just a oh no we can't change, because the thing is they did change a lot of stuff with 2024. That is the whole point of 2024, and yet it was still poorly done, you know? Like they didn't have to make 2024. They could have done something completely different. They could have just kept making D&D 5e stuff. It's baffling, and I think it's just someone at the top literally who does not know how any of this works making bad calls and forcing these bad calls to go through, and everyone working under them is scrambling to try to piece it together. That's
It
the
makes
only
sense because they
thing.
keep firing people who are like trying to hold the ship together. Their
Right.
teams keep crumbling
It just
from
seems to
every
me
single report.
it's just like someone it's like that one guy who keeps getting into all these high level positions at companies, the guy who made the what was that one game development, Unity, yeah, the Unity guy, who was used to work at EA and floated the idea of making players pay for reloading their guns and games.
Oh
uh
yeah, that guy.
uh
That like monetization talk.
like people don't think that idiots like that make it to high level positions, but this guy proves over and over and over again there's just dumb people who make company destroying decisions at high levels, and I feel like that's just what we have in D&D. I don't think it's an adversity to change. I think it's more just they keep saying they want something done away and then changing their mind, and they're not listening to what anyone else is trying to tell them about what people want, because like they removed the a la carte style of purchasing content from books online. Like through D&D Beyond, you could buy like a class from a book without buying the entire book, which makes perfect sense to do, because then a player who does not want to buy the whole book or can't buy the whole book can spend much less money more frequently to buy the things from the books they want to do. All D&D has to do is just release digital content of new classes that people have to spend like $5 on, and all you have to pay to do that is literally the person who designs it for their man hours and the art. That's like, I don't know, I'm gonna give a bullshit number, but let's say that's like $800 to produce a class like that, right? Then sell it for $5 a pop, and in no time 150 people 100, like not even 150 people buy it, it's paid for itself. So it's like, and that's the biggest money making thing they could make. Literally, they could do what they see their literal buyer base doing on the regular, which is buying third-party content. They can just make their own version of third-party content that's actually canon and make money on it, and spend very little money, because then they don't have to make a whole book. They don't have to do all that shit. They can just make one thing and just charge people for it, and people are going to be happy with that, because they're like, oh man, yeah, I'll get this class, whatever. And then like in a year, they bundle a few of them together for like a slight markdown, and just make people buy something that costs them literally nothing to make, at that point.
I wish a method of copying the market was the analysis that was actually followed through, because instead a similar conversation will 100% happen at Hasbro, to like looking at third-party content, but instead the option the executive saw was gimme.
Yeah.
And they wanted the money because they were like, wow, we don't want to do the work though. That money belongs to us.
But
That's
see,
our property.
The
and then
wild
they
thing
try to
is,
take it.
They did do the work. They have put out a shit ton of books, all of them adventure paths or setting books, but they put out a bunch of books that no one wanted, because people, I mean, I shouldn't say no one wanted. I do know that there's quite a few that a lot of people, my wife essentially has bought in several of those books because they look interesting.
The setting books are more worth it, to be honest. And honestly, the only part about a lot of the setting books that are even interesting is the fact that it's either like that it's usually just like working with Matthew Mercer, and his designs are actually good. Like, I like his design work. A lot of his class, even his like subclasses, you look at and you're like, yeah, this is just works really well.
But see,
the
that's the
reason
thing.
why everyone likes his stuff.
They were literally doing all that stuff anyway. The problem was, you only need one setting book per group of people. So why not just make classes that people can buy to use with D&D Beyond? It makes literally no sense.
I think they just they just can't do it anymore. Like they've had too many, like, I think the Mystic bit just scared them. And I think at this point their team has been like essentially ripped out and fired so many times, or just quit, because apparently the design team with D&D like has had a stupidly high turnover rate. Like that's because basically, I think the last I saw, every time a book drops, a bunch of people just fucking quit. Like the experience is just so bad. So like it's probably just so hard to design anything. And then the people who are so like stuck around are just like, I don't know how to design a class anymore. I don't know, make it do like 4d8 damage and it does this. And it's like, that seems pretty good. And then everyone's like, this is stupid, makes no sense. And they're like, oh no, they hate it. I just think they just don't know how to. And so then they're just like, just give them paid books. I guess they're easier to make. You just hire some people on for a few months, they make it, and then that's it. And then they can quit, or we can fire them.
It just reeks of incompetency. It reeks of incompetency, and I don't think there's any rationale behind it. It's just a lot of people who don't give a shit. And that's mostly what it boils down to.
It's usually always at the top. It's like executives making bad decisions because a lot of times they think they know better. Or in some case, a lot of the times, executives do know how to squeeze something for money in the easiest way possible. And right now, they're doing that, but they're doing it in a way where it's like, we can look at it and be like, wait, there's just a more mutually beneficial situation that we can do here. And then they're just like,
that sounds like we're gonna have to pay money to do that, so we're gonna say no.
Exactly, which is why then the answer to like, why, well, we could just go through this. We could make this like really cool system of releasing all this like new content. It's like, yeah, we'd have to pay people though. Instead, we could write up a new contract and just take the money.
which doesn't work anyway because they don't know anything.
No, it's like
So,
then everyone, the only reason is because people made a stink of it and they're like, oh fuck, everyone's really mad about this. Oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. Like they got really panicked. Like, and that was and that's just the executive way. You make decisions like that and you really hope that nobody notices or people forget, because if they do, you have to scramble. That's panic mode, because if that goes too bad, your tower comes crumbling down. And then your cushy job is gone. Because you got a really easy job. You just siphon money from a company through the work of a bunch of other people.
yeah. I guess
Classic D&D.
I guess we're talking about the same thing. It's just
Oh yeah.
the perspective. Regardless, I'm fascinated. I find it actually truly tragic how poorly 2024 has done, because D&D is the biggest pull for people to join tabletop. Hands down, no matter what anyone says.
It really is.
It's just so available. And they have some of the best digital sets. Paizo's website still is not great. Even though they said they've been working on it, it's still not nearly as good. And so it's like, it's tragic. I really want D&D to be really good. I want D&D to be the World of Warcraft of tabletop games. I do. I really do, because that's what made a lot of people want new, better MMOs. And I want that same amount of people to find some magic and then want some more.
You know, speaking of just, I guess, D&D adjacent, finding new stuff, and also D&D being bad, the good old Cosmere TTRPG.
Yeah, I was actually just about to get to that, but I wanted to finish the thought without ending with just D&D execs bad.
That's fair.
But the Cosmere RPG,
there's a fun detail I found too, but yeah, go on.
Go ahead. Start off with the detail.
Well, it's more of a interesting little bash. It's like, because it's based on the one criticism I think we're both going to have of the Cosmere RPG, and it's the fact that it's a D20 game.
Right.
If you watch some of the videos and streams with like the designers and Brandon Sanderson, it's very clear that they're not super happy about it being a D20 game.
Is it really?
Yeah, like there's some streams and stuff where they're like doing their best to be kind about the fact that they're using a D20, and sometimes they're even a little like, yeah, we know D20, but because this is actually the first game by Brotherwise Games that has used D20 and not like a weird dice system they've created. Like this is the first standard D20, because I was seeing some people like talk about this and like review, like show some of those clips and bits and be like, oh yeah, it makes me think, like, I wonder if this would have been doing as well if it wasn't a D20 game. Like, because the Kickstarter is almost at $8 million, and how much the game is referred to as like, it's like D&D but better with a D20, so you guys can jump right in. It's like, that's perfect. That's a perfect marketing point and a perfect point for like, hey guys, are you upset with like D&D? Come play this better game. It's got all the stuff you might want with like better, interesting rules. And then I'm thinking, would this game work better or like sell as good if it like maybe had like a 2d6 system, or maybe even had the dice system that's something a little more similar to like Legend of the Five Rings or the Star Wars game, which is also games they've worked on. It's like,
yeah.
I don't know, and I also probably not as much, because I think a lot of D&D people who like are dissatisfied, more than likely, are really interested in the Cosmere RPG.
Yeah, honestly, you asked the question that I was thinking in my head, thinking about the Cosmere, because I pulled it up on Demiplane, and I've been looking at it a bit, And I think it's a very legitimate conversation to have. Is a D20 game a good choice or not for any new tabletop? Because the problem is the D20 is synonymous with tabletop gaming at this point.
Yeah, it's like the tabletop dice.
Yeah,
and it's like like a D6, for example, because like 2D6s are a lot better. Like it's not a swingy, like a 2D6 system, you are more reliable to roll at least like decent or well. Like it's not going to, be as variable. But D6s are like a board game thing, I think, in a lot of people's heads. And so like that doesn't scream like a D&D.
Exactly.
And like it doesn't scream like we're gonna sit down and play a tabletop game, because I think the big funny dice is what sells a lot of people, because dice collectors.
I'm going to utter some words that will make any grognard within hearing distance of this podcast cringe and shrink into themselves like a raisin. But the most important base for any game system are your casual players.
Yes.
Not if we're talking like something that has monetization, like gacha games, then of course not. But
No,
also
then it's the
kind of.
whales.
Also kind of. Because the thing is, what is going to make the next big tabletop game is not going to be necessarily the best designed tabletop game, but the tabletop game that is going to garner the most general interest from everyone. Because then it appears on social media, then, yeah, whales need casuals to lord over, exactly. We need recognizability in any game. And you need your favorite people, whether they're celebrities, YouTubers, VTubers, streamers, whatever, to also want to invest in a game. The number of games that have come out that we only know about because someone popular or famous liked it or enough people got together is insane, because there are some games out there that I think are highly underrated that no one talks about nowadays. And that's not even like the whole hipster, like, oh, I play indie games that no one talks about kind of stuff. It's like legitimately, there's a lot of really, really well designed, really fun games out there. Like Path of Exile is a game that almost no one outside of the Path of Exile community talks about, unless you're adjacent, like in Diablo 4 or 3 or whatever. But that game only gets bigger as years go by. Literally, for like the last year or so, every new league start has found more and more players than it did before. That's so unusual for a game that's 10 years old, I might add. I only play goblins with fat asses. We were just talking about Tom earlier. So, the thing is that good games do eventually, like, find the light. But what finds the light faster, easier, and better, honestly, is people talking about it. Because, like, let's all be very honest. Five Nights at Freddy's was never a great game to begin with. It's not even great for scares, honestly.
No, it becomes not scary after like an hour, because you start learning like the pattern, and the game could be mathematically solved.
And yet, here we are. Years later, tons of different Five Nights at Freddy games. Most of them not that great. Some of them interesting, actually.
Apparently a new one, like, that's actually, like, unironically amazing just dropped.
And
like,
so...
I only found it because on Steam, but yeah. They have Markiplier and Game Theory.
Yeah, of course. But so... what matters most to the TTRPG scene right now is viewability. We need something that a lot of people know of, want to do, want to play. And you know what's been tragic, D&D has always just been synonymous with the idea of tabletop games. And Critical Role has made it very easy and attainable for a lot of people, because not only is it just a game that you know exists, but you see these people play it. And not only that, but Matt Mercer and crew are also really genuinely cool people and do a lot of interacting in the spaces around it, you know. Moist Critical has talked with the Critical Role team, you know. And so you get this game that everyone knows and plays, that no one plays correctly because everyone has to homebrew, and they release such a lukewarm new edition. That's where the Cosmere comes in. Because even though I know we live in a world where people just don't read really as much anymore, honestly, I think people have an adversity to reading, and that's not like, oh, the use in their videos or whatever. I think legitimately the way we consume information now legitimately makes reading more difficult for people, because it's just not stimulating like everything else is. But still, the Cosmere and everything Brian Sanders has been touching has been getting a growing popularity in years. I didn't even know it existed, but apparently a lot of people really like their stuff.
Oh yeah, it's booming, and I know about it because I kept hearing whispers on the wind, and people kept telling me like, Alex, you gotta read Stormlight Archives, or Alex, you gotta read Mistborn, and I'm like, I probably should. You keep describing it and it sounds cool. Or in Stormlight Archives case, what is it? And it's like, well, I can't really explain it. And I'm like, well, I love to hear that. That fills me with joy. As a man who has an entire YouTube hustle about explaining things, I adore that. And so, yeah, I think that it's booming, and a lot of people have their eyes on it because a lot of people are just fans of Stormlight, and
Mm-hmm.
people want just to play in that world because it's so interesting. Especially like, and then the fact that they revealed it's the entire Cosmere, which is even crazier because I only know vaguely of like Mistborn stuff, but the main thing you'll hear endlessly when it comes to Mistborn is that Mistborn has the debates of like Mistborn Stormlight is which world has the cooler magic system. Because Mistborn has an entirely different magic system, but based in a lot of fundamental universal truths for like his universe. But apparently it's sick, and I don't know much about it because I've stayed pretty blind. Thankfully, it seems very cool. Yeah, each world has like its own hard magic, and when you have like a hard magic system, one of people's immediate thoughts is like, well, I want to use it.
Yeah,
I see the rules. I kind of
exactly.
want to play with it. And then it's even better when you read the books. And it's my favorite aspect of Stormlight, where you read it, the characters get their powers, and then they're just like, well, how can I gamify my magic powers? And you're like, I would do that too. I would 100% be doing that if this was a game. I'd be like, can I do this thing? This thing seems a little like unrealistic. Can I do this? It's like they're asking their GM like goofy questions with with the infusions and stuff. Or not infusion, that's not the word. But Cosmere RPG's magic system is, it depends which world it's set in, but it's very complicated and baked in science kinda. It's a lot. And will take like 10 minutes, which is should be a selling point that I just said that. If you like really detailed magic systems, especially ones where he goes into like the physics of how a lot of it works, you would be a fan of it.
Yeah, I have been looking into it because I'll be doing a video on the Cosmere soon. So stay
I also will.
tuned. But right now,
I'm gonna make 2 videos on it actually, on the lore of Roshar, because I've decided to split it down the middle. I've decided to go. The first part is all spoiler free, the lore of just in the world and like the general concept of Roshar and all that, like what you need to know just to be in there. And then the second stuff, I'm going into the Radiant stuff. All going into like the 10 Radiant paths and like how they all work, what does it mean to be a radiant, and like all that stuff. And only main reason I'm doing that is because I just got to the part in book 3 where they're finally starting to explain the other radiant orders. So like I'm like, well, I'm not gonna read this on a wiki. I'm in that part of the book now. I kind of want to wait a little bit.
Yeah. And most of what we have right now is just a preview, so we don't really have a lot of the magic yet in the game. Just a lot of the core, like how your character acts, skills, and everything like that. There's going to be a Stormlight handbook that's going to have more of that part of it soon. And they're going to be doing this for a lot of other things. But like circling back to the point, with the Cosmere coming out, with so many people who like legitimately, it's wild to me that it's kind of all coming together at once, because I literally just heard like Alex was talking about it, and then I saw a video from Jacksepticeye just talking about how much he loves the Stormlight Archive and all that kind of stuff. I genuinely think of everything, the Stormlight Archive has one of the biggest chances of getting really big, because they have a lot of money from, you know, a very well performing author for books. There's a lot of interest. There's a lot of celebrity interest in it currently. And there is just that special something, that special, it's still fantasy. It's still kind of medieval fantasy with a little sci-fi mixed in, sprinkled in on top a little bit. So it still gets all the fantasy fans, but it's a little different. It's a little more cosmic in some ways.
Yeah, it's like the best I can explain it is or not even explain it. The best I could relate it, the closest some I've ever seen a world get to Stormlight Archives is first like Brandon Sanderson's just other work. And the other one is kind of like Magic the Gathering, like some of their like older worlds, like kind of the Ravnica, those kind of areas, only because like it has a little bit of like world hopping sometimes. Like it's very unique and it's doing its own thing, which I think when it pulls people in of like, okay, this is fully unique and different, which is honestly what I think would be the only thing that's going to hold the game back when it comes to like popularity. I think money wise, I think it's going to do fine, because they're going to come out with like a lot of really cool shit that just Stormlight Archive fans are going to want. Even like if I didn't give a shit, if like I saw this and like the game is just a 5e port, that's all it was, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to cry tonight. That's all I'm going to do. But they're also just coming out with world guides for like, just for the first time, just like, here's everything about Roshar. It's like, I just buy that though. Like, I would just purchase that book because it sounds beautiful. And I think it's going to have pull. The only thing I can see hurting it is the fact that it's so tied into a very dense fantasy world that's fully unique. I think a lot of people, specifically very like normies kind of vibe, are going to look at it and be like, I don't see the recognizable fantasy elements here. Where are my dwarves? Where are my elves? And then they're just going to feel they're going to feel like a little like, I don't know, this isn't familiar, and like be put off, or feel like, do I have to read the books first before I jump in? And then that delays it a little bit. I can see it financially booming. I'm curious about its popularity like a good while after it drops.
We'll see. I will say it might be obvious to some of you, but D&D is also pretty a lot for a lot of normies as well. As
oh yeah,
the D&D world, Faerun by itself has a lot of lore and stuff, Waterdeep, all that kind of stuff.
I think it's just people coasting off Tolkien style Western fantasy.
I don't think that actually stops a lot of it. There may be some people who are like, I really like playing elves and dwarves or whatever, but I think that's a minority, even of the casual crew. Most people like playing weird little guys. That's my general impression. Which, to be fair, isn't really much in the Cosmere at the moment either. But
Yeah, there's two. You can either play a human or one of the Parshendi. That's kind of all you get.
but what's going to draw people to the game is not going to be what the game is about. It's about who likes the game. That's just how it's going to be. The no one is going to want to play a game that people they like and watch don't talk about or aren't interested in. Typically, there needs to be some celebrities, some internet celebrities, whatever, who have to get interested and get invested in the game. That's the make or break for the system in the end. Is well, of course, I understand, Ogun. What I'm saying more is like people still don't understand even what Faerun is about even now. So it's not like this stopped anyone. Uh, I think the Cosmere has a chance. I'm not saying it's going to be the next big thing. I'm excited for it. I'm personally interested. It's a D20 system, but also Pathfinder is. So Pathfinder can make it good. Why not? Why not the Cosmere, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
it seems like the route they're going for is having like instead of being a very big modifier game, it seems like the idea is to have the players rolling as often as possible. Like
yeah.
if or alternatively, if you do fail, you will always have the option to fail upwards. Like that is just this like reading through everything that I have, every single thing you do, you, like if you're fighting somebody or something like that, you have an opportunity to like you fuck up. Well, you can spend this resource to like at least have it so something happens, which is I think a great decision. And then the whole other bit is gamifying advantage and disadvantage, which I think is going to be very interesting and turning it into like you're not just standing still and swinging every turn. You have a lot of different actions for every act, like every type of thing. And so it's turning the game into like locking down enemies, making it so they just can't hit. Or like that can happen to you, so getting overrun by people is really bad, which is going to prioritize mobility. And there's going to be a lot of, I think, really interesting emergence design coming out of just how the actions are going to interact, simply because there's so many ways of gaining advantage or imposing disadvantage. So I'm really curious to see it in motion.
Yeah, we will just genuinely have to see. I think there's a good chance. I think it's got also the Kickstarter's at 8 million or more at this point. I genuinely think that enough people like Sanders' work, a lot of celebrities do, and a lot of people in the TTRPG space are just hungry enough to want something else. And what better to move from one big property than to go to another big property, you know? I definitely think there's a solid chance, but I don't think it's a for sure thing. And even if it does some good market success, it still probably won't initially compare to D&D, but it could. The thing is that a lot of people who played tabletop games in general, they just want to make their characters. They want to make a character who does something really interesting, does something really cool. They don't care what really form that takes. Once people start playing TTRPGs, they just want interesting options. They want to do and mess around with some interesting things. There's people out there who do nothing but make new characters every session because that's what they like, is making characters. They don't want to play the game. They just want to make a character and interact a little bit to see how it goes, you know. And I feel like that's a lot of people, honestly, in the space. So will the Cosmere over succeed? I don't think so. I think the most likely situation is the Cosmere will come out. It'll be pretty big. It'll be a game that a lot of people will talk about and kind of like move around, but I don't think it will grab major market success. But it could, if important enough people get involved and just make it the next game, which is kind of just always a thing that could happen. It has to be. Everyone has to see value in it by who values it. So it really, it's like indie games. Who knows what indie game is going to actually blow up or not? No one can really tell you. It's just random sometimes. Random and how marketable it can be made into afterwards. Like Among Us was a game for quite a while before it became actually like huge. So it's not even like a win release or not situation. But I feel like Gen Con with the Stormlight booth and a lot of people talking about the game, and with D&D kind of just having a very lukewarm show, I feel like Gen Con is going to be the start of what we're going to expect to see in future developments in the tabletop space.
I hope so.
We also just have a lot of games currently that are cooking. We have D20, we have MCDM, and Pathfinder is still going strong. I mean, Pathfinder is just going to be releasing hit after hit after hit for the remaining parts of this year. Like, I'm expecting any day now to be getting the Tiansha character guide. Hi, I like making builds. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I definitely think that, and I've been saying this for a while, that like tabletop in general is gonna be seeing like some big growth soon. And I feel like the Cosmere coming out was so much, like, it wasn't even like, here's a very like it's not rimshod, we'll say hodgepodge. Here's a very hodgepodge like idea of what our game is going to be like. But like, nah, we got art, we have a whole plan. You know, once we get funded, we'll really just buckle down. We got a play test right away. Like, from me learning that there is going to be a Cosmere RPG to when it went into the Gen Con was a very short amount of time. So we got something very good on the horizon. We got a lot of good things on the horizon in the tabletop space.
We do. Like, the part also that just made me like a significantly more excited, because like Cosmere was the one thing I was like super following. Because like I was ranting about it of like, man, it's so annoying, all these articles coming out like before the stuff has been revealed, like just saying like Stormlight Archive seems pretty cool. The parts I like, the part that's like D&D, the part I don't like, the parts that aren't D&D. It was just multiple articles I read. It was like, this is fucking annoying. But then every single like major report, like just tabletop reporter or whoever that went to Gen Con, tried out the Cosmere RPG, like just tried it out, said, this fucking rules. Like, this was so much fun. Everyone had a blast with it. So like a lot, I saw an article or two that said like, I haven't had this much fun with a tabletop game in a while. And it's like, I think that I think it's a great sign for your game. If like, and whenever anyone plays it, they're like, okay, you got something special.
Yeah. So I think we got some great stuff. I think we're gonna get a lot of things. I think D&D will still remain the top just by how many people understand what D&D is and just how accessible it is. But I feel like for us who enjoy tabletop games a lot, we're going to start seeing more open space in the field that just feels good. Because legitimately, honestly, for a good while here, I haven't felt like there's been that many really interesting or good TTRPGs for my tastes. And it's always going to be like an individual basis. But like, I played many of the greats. And I'm going to be playing many of the greats moving forward still, as that's always been my intent. But like, Pathfinder really hit that space of like, this is the perfect amount of gamified by a company that's really good and that provides endless amounts of ideas and interesting things. And I played Fabula Ultima, which I think conceptually is very interesting. And Lancer is really good, but it doesn't have a super strong development cycle. So there's just been a lot of space that I feel like I would love to see filled by other games doing really cool things. And I think we're going to start getting that now. And I think if you're someone who's interested in tabletop, I think we're about to enter into an era of being spoiled for choice. And Paizo isn't afraid to break out of European fantasy. Exactly. Sorry, what'd you say, Alex?
I certainly hope we get spoiled. It's better than the alternative. And, you know, I do resonate a lot with the, like, just not a lot of new games coming out, because it's the bit that gives me a lot of hope with the Cosmere RPG. It's largely just the fact that it's so nice to see a new tabletop game that's not marketed as being streamlined or simple.
Yes, actually, I've been thinking about that this whole time too. We're on the same wavelength today, you and I. We got a lot of the same thoughts. All right, so I'm gonna throw out, I think, maybe a hot take a lot of people aren't ready for. I don't think casual players like rules light games. Period. I don't actually think rules light is the direction for a lot of people. And what has led me to this point is taking a lot of my players who range in levels of proficiency and playing more rules light games. In fact, playing rules light games with people who are kind of just more new to tabletop in general. We've been playing a little bit of Fabula Ultima on the side, and I've been playing a lot of other games. And as a GM, and as me personally, because I am really, really good at improv, and for me, just coming up with new stuff or working or trying ideas is very simple. So it would make sense that a rules light game might work better, because it's just like you're not limited. But that's the thing, and you're right, Dead Phoenix. Rules and guidelines are great because players are really, really bad at making up like plans or doing things to make their character stronger. You know, like Fabula Ultima is a really good game if your players are really good at doing like stuff for themselves, like finding use in the system, making interesting things happen for their characters. It's not a good game for players who want to do something cool but can't visualize what that is. And I've been looking at a lot of games, and I've been looking at a lot of examples lately, and the whole like Chris Perkins saying, oh, barbarian should just be a subclass of D&D, of fighter in D&D, misses the point completely. Players want identity. Players want to use a system. Players want to see what a rules light game should be is not limiting choices, but instead making choices easier is what it should be. And I feel like, in all honesty, a game that has some heft, a little bit of weight, that's easy and accessible is way better than a game that is just open. Because like, I've been getting frustrated with my players lately when it comes to like, hey, all right, ask each other a question about like how you guys met or something. And it took forever for anyone to think of anything. And to be fair, that's normal. I'm the weird one. I can think of that stuff instantly, but that's normal to not be able to just come up with a backstory in a moment or to ask a question like that. Even though I love those questions.
I personally will never resonate as hard with a thing like that than in character getting to meet another person's character for the first time. Because it's like, I don't know, I like skipping the part where it's like we've known each other the whole time. It's like, okay, I'm just going to covertly pretend that I've known you, but in reality I'm gonna like form the relationship, because otherwise, like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here. Like, I can't pretend that we have a history, and because I method act too hard as like a role player.
So are you saying
And
you
like
also hate those questions?
I I can work with them. I just like if I had the option of use the questions to make up backstories or play out like meeting the characters for the first time, I would prefer to meet the people for the first time. I'd prefer to at least play out when it happened because I want to play out how the relationship goes with another character because sometimes as I play my character too much in their own head and therefore like when I speak to someone how I immediately think in the moment is like the same way I would when I talk to like a random person I just meet in real life. It's like the character's thought it process and stuff is immediately hit. And when I'm in an out of game situation like answer a question, I'm like, I can't make the same connection I could normally.
I don't know, because when we did it with the Critical Role Daggerheart, I felt like everyone had some really interesting ideas. I mean, you didn't actually get to play with us, but everyone was having a good time just like connecting everyone's stories together in some interesting ways. And for Fabula Ultima, we did it too. And eventually, anyway, we did make some interesting things.
I think there's 100% very good things that come out of it, which is why I cannot say that I hate it. That's not my opinion of it at all. It like I think there's 100% positives that come out of it, but like when it comes to what is it like believable or I guess like in my head very natural character relationships forming in a like TTRPG meeting for the first time, even like the cliche we all meet in a tavern, like is just in my head easier to work with. If I'm meeting a character for the first time, my character can then make the value judgment on a person, and then that can adjust the same way I would when I meet another person for the first time.
Yeah, I mean,
It's harder to do that in an abstract sense.
That's very it's very individual from person to person. Most of
100%.
what I've experienced is people are really bad at we all meet in the tavern. For Alex, do your thing. We have an interloper.
I was fucking drinking and then they popped into chat.
Because a lot of players are just not great at. Well, first of all, a lot of people are really bad at socializing in general, and it leads to very awkward character moments that make it really hard for a group to get together. That's honestly what happens in a lot of games is the group never really clicks because there's just not enough of those moments that bind them together because players don't choose to engage that way because it's like I barely know this person, they're a stranger. But if there's some kind of backstory, I feel like that makes players way more eager to engage, because when a moment comes up during the game that ties into a backstory or how your characters met, it makes for an easy moment and be like, hey, remember when we did that thing? Good times. So I mean,
Yeah,
I think
it's what
go ahead.
it's what makes me curious with how we're gonna do Plague Watch, because I know you said that we've been like working together for a while. Because it's just like when I think of the children's campaign like start, one of the benefits I think about it is the immediate backstory linkage that a lot of it like comes up with, and that's one of the strengths of it too. Which is like I think there's a lot of strengths to it. Like I really like methods that have you create a character in play. I think is a really smart method of character creation, and is really good. It works really well because a lot of times you can latch on to a thing and an idea and a person and like really send it. And then in my experience with that thing, the shared just situation that everyone was in builds that kind of shared like we're kind of the people who understand what this was like, and it's like that builds camaraderie, which I think makes it really interesting.
Well, that's kind of why and to be fair, I also like good story hooks of those kind of situations. When we did the Bros game for Anima, and you started off in that small little middle of nowhere town up north, then a bunch of undead attacked the town. Like that was a good establishing like hook for the game.
Oh, immediate.
That's what I like a bit more. But the questions thing was just is just kind of like a situation where you can help people establish connections in a way that doesn't force them to do it organically through actual communication, because a lot of people are really just bad at that kind of thing. Uh,
Hmm.
and that's what I like. But anyway, kind of circling back here to the initial point, I don't think rules like games are actually good for new players. I feel like players
No.
need a direction and an idea for their character.
I think you need the guardrails. You need to know where is okay to play in, and you need to have like you need to have the situations where you are told no or you're given the restrictions, because by having the restrictions you have the bounds of which to push, because it's the thing that
Mm-hmm.
makes like hard magic interesting. It's the part of like, because if you have the two forms of like I have the magic that I kind of just I do whatever, it's like okay cool man fun, but when you have a hard magic system and you're like okay these are the established rules, I cannot go outside of these bounds. Okay, well, I can test those bounds. How far does the rule go? I know I can't do this thing, but how close can I get to that line until it stops me? And then that builds those questions. And like that's the benefit of hard systems. And
Mm-hmm.
you don't get that with rules light, like
Yeah.
really at all. I think it's a good point. I at least the only thing benefit I see out of rules light is from a production standpoint. If I had to work on a project that was like being filmed, streamed, recorded or something, and I was told, "Hey, we're going to use a rules light system over like a hard game system," I'd be like, "Okay, that sounds like this is going to make my life a little easier." Because
Mm-hmm.
this sounds like it should be just an easier time. That is the only situation where I would have a like a preference for like this might be a better use for this. But even then, you can make any game work if the people are entertaining enough and the show is good.
Yeah.
So it's fully like a I am thinking of being a producer in a work role, not a like person playing the game or a viewer.
Yeah.
So
For me,
I agree. I agree completely with that.
yeah, for me, rules light is really good. I think when you are, I think honestly, operating at high levels of play, when you have a GM who can think on their feet and players who can think on their feet and create interesting things in the moment. Because like when we played Monster of the Week, I loved playing as my weird, prepared for anything hunter guy Tobias. Uh,
I love playing as the badass ex FBI agent. Like it was so sick. Actually, just being like a badass monster hunter. It being terrifying to like if a monster shows up, it's like I'm the threat here, not you. Yeah, it feels awesome.
Yeah, and the thing is like you can do a lot of that kind of stuff only in those kind of games. A lot of what I did with Tobias was literally just due to the fact that it's an open-ended game, and it was really really fun. I did eventually just get bored with it though, because I enjoyed playing just some guy who grows all. Yeah, I mean that's also fun too. But like I did eventually get bored with Monster of the Week because at the end of the day, I could do a lot of interesting things, but none of them had any weight because there was just nothing to back it up. It was
It's not
more
the
just,
game doing it.
yeah, it's just whether the GM said, yeah, that works, or yeah, that doesn't. And I'm going to double down. I think rules like games make more or take more effort for new players, or not even new players, but players who are not good at improv specifically.
Yeah,
Because
that was a point I was thinking about making too. Actually,
yeah,
funny
see,
enough.
again, same way, like we're beaming to each other over the internet today. Uh, it's honestly just more work to come up with interesting solutions. The number of times I sit there gritting my teeth, just like, come on, guys, just do something inventive, do something interesting, give me something to play with, uh, and not getting anything back because players just people just have a bad time imagining the scene. Other people just have a bad like mental movie going on where they can't really describe the idea of what they want to do well enough or accurately enough. And sometimes players are just not actively creative enough to make the most use out of a rules light system. And I know in the past before that we talked about how there are so many better games that are rules light for than D&D that I think people should go to instead. And you know what? I've grown as a person. I've learned to understand that's just not the way. I feel like a more rigid system is good. I feel like then when you become more experienced, you can break down those walls and expand out of it. When we do Plague Watch, I'm going to just be manhandling Pathfinder's system and making the story my own and making the system my own
Mhm.
because I've learned the game, I understand the game now, and now all the parts that we were kind of pressing a little too hard against before, I can break away and add something that's more interesting or newer. And I feel like that is the proper area of growth for players is when they get so comfortable in a system, then they can start adding stuff. And I think that was the thing a lot of people in D&D really liked. But D&D was such a kind of basic system that if you just removed a lot of the holes in the system, it wasn't very big. So that allowed people to gain general mastery over the system really fast. So that when they added homebrew, they were just constantly building onto something they were already comfortable with. Regardless, that doesn't make the system's lack of fundamental rules or overall balance good, but I'm saying that it's, I think, what attributes to that environment that made the homebrewing such a big thing in D&D, because the system
Mhm.
is brain dead easy if you are going to be honest.
It's really not hard.
Most DCs, unless you're getting to like crazy endgame or you have players who are just min-maxing the crap out of the system, are between like 12 and 17, to be honest. Maybe 19 if you're going to go crazy with it. And like how your thing works is roll. Did you hit the number? Yes. Roll damage die. Subtract from HP. That's it.
You know, I also like circling back because it's a similar point, I guess, to what you're making, but not fully. But expanding on it.
Mm-hmm.
I do think one of the benefits of a stronger, more rigid rule experience is it's something I've seen even in like D&D and stuff. One of the hurdles a lot of people make when they're jumping into tabletop is I think purely the very new people is getting over I think the kind of embarrassment of the idea of like role playing or like
Mm-hmm.
playing a character like that in front of a group of people. And I think rules light is a really bad environment to break that embarrassment because it leads to a lot of oh fuck what do I do, like that freeze up, because like for something like D&D you can have like the track. It's like okay, I look at this, I see the rules, I just because like if I'm getting cooking in this, I'm understanding it. At the beginning you're just like okay, I attack, I roll this, okay, that hits, okay, then I roll this, okay, and then as they get better they can then be like I swing, I do this cool maneuver, it hits, I do this thing as I deal the damage. It's like you can do that, like that's a player loosening those shackles. And instead you give them like a rules light game, like you give them even like monster of the week, something like that. You slap down the moves and you're like okay, go. What are the rules? Say what you do, I'll tell you if it works. And you're like
Yeah.
fuck, just you need like having the track, I think is how I view it. It's like so in my head I picture it like the scythe, the little like turn tracker. It's you need like that little bit of like I put this thing here, that is what I'm doing, I can read the list, that's good. And then once you're good at it, like you're really comfortable in that space, you take the step up, like you were saying with third party D&D, you take the step up. And the step up is you start describing maybe what cool thing you're doing, you picture it in your head. You get a little bit of positive feedback, people being like, "Ah, hell yeah, that's sick." And you're like, "Yeah, I did. That was pretty sick." People, okay, this is a safe space for me to do this. And then you kind of go a bit higher and a bit higher, and then you're talking in character.
Yep.
Like that is, I think, a ideal experience for somebody like feeling comfortable in that space. And I think rules light is not a great method to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Which is something that like I've been learning as we've been playing games more and more, because like we had a good, very solid core group of like kind of experienced role players for a bit, and then we kind of shook things up a bit and added some new people who are not quite as good as the role play, and are not quite as experienced with tabletop, and we were kind of like getting there, but I was like, okay, it seems like they're just not taking advantage of like the role play aspect. So let's do something that's more free. Let's do something that's rules light, so that they can just do whatever, and it doesn't matter. You just got to make a check. You just got to roll the dice and just say it and do a thing. And then I noticed they weren't taking advantage of that freedom. If anything, they were just more confused at what they should do. And that's when it dawned on me that, like, if you want to get players super excited about your game, don't say you can make any character you want. Say, here is this badass character. You can play this guy. Here's the rules to do that. And then you just keep adding more characters that you can do. And eventually someone's going to see a character and like, I want to play that character. That character looks really cool. And then they can learn those.
Like, it's the difference between I hear that and then because I was like, yeah, because Stormlight isn't doing that. Because I scroll down in the Kickstarter for the Cosmere, and they don't say, like, you can make whatever you want. Instead, it's just like, we have a bit, like, if I'm reading the whole, like, here's the character section, and it's talking about, like, we're making a big system. There's a lot of stuff you can do. It is going to grow constantly. Then it says, choose your path. Heroes can be found in every world, but each world has its own unique character options. Choose your path. Do you want to be an Artifabrian who uses technology powered by magic? A shard bearer using giant shard blade and shard plate to turn the tide of battle? Do you want to be a Knight Radiant and use these like magic abilities for yourself? It's like, no, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just immediately lay out the like, yeah, here's the cool thing. Yeah, this is it. It isn't like make whatever. It's like, no, here you go. Here are the ideas.
Yeah, exactly. They're showing you. They're not telling you you can be in this world where, you know, people make tech based on magic. They'd be like, no, this is a person. This is what they do, and I think like the Knight Radiants are going to be a really good example of, here's a character who has these kind of typical traits, personalities, yada yada, that you can work off of. And I think that's great. And in like any tabletop, the idea of open and players can do whatever and can make whatever is an idea that doesn't work in practice. There's people who can, and like I said, I think a rules light game could be really, really good if you have the right people in that game who are all on the same wavelength and can really match up. But most groups of individuals aren't on the same wavelength. They have a variety of different preferences, skills, things they're good at in roleplay versus things they're not good at in roleplay. And so you just make a rigid system that gives you a lot to work off of that you can then break down at the higher levels. And I think that's when tabletop gets good, because legitimately, honestly, Anima Beyond Fantasy is both mine and Alex's current best experiences in tabletop that we've ever had, period.
Oh, 100%. It's a beautiful, beautiful memories.
And we never played Anima Beyond Fantasy exactly the way the game should have been played.
I don't think you should.
I made shit up all the time. And I warped that system into the experience that now I cringe at whenever someone is just like, hey, we should do Anima, because I'm like, you know how much work that was? How much I had to bend that system over my knee just to make it work for you. And you're asking me to do it again? But that's some of the best experiences we had.
It was so good.
It was so good.
If you do that to Pathfinder, yeah, I'll be saying the same shit about Pathfinder.
Yeah, eventually.
That's the energy I'm bringing to Plague Watch. That's what I'm hitting you with my plastic skeleton.
Yeah. Let's play a 7 out of 10 serious game. Hey Cameron, I'm gonna play a plastic skeleton from a
that was
lab.
Intentional. That was intentional for me to do that, because the plastic skeleton is inherently goofy, but I'm making it not goofy in his story, and also I found out that one of the tags I can pick for the
Exemplar.
fuck exemplar is mournful.
Yep.
Yeah, which is described as like you put on a good face, you put on the laugh when there's really nothing. There's no smile inside. And it's like, yeah, I think that's the skeleton. I think that this is a very, very depressed skeleton now who is 100% like, never again. I will never again sit idly by as someone dies in front of me. I will never run away as I hear people get killed. That's never going to happen again. But then on the outside, he's like, I'm a skeleton. Hee hee hee. But like that's my challenge because I take it and I'm like, well, I gotta do something fun. Also, I was operating under the assumption of like this guy's probably gonna die, so might as well throw something fun at the wall first. And then he survived it, and then New Game Plus.
Yeah, you got.
I was so stressed out.
So lucky with that skeleton. And I don't. If anyone has watched our Plague Watch Session 0 Part 1, because there's gonna be a Part 2 now, I don't pull punches.
I was gonna ask if you pulled any punches out of pity, and I was like, I don't think you did, because there were moments where you could have gone harder, but that would have been like unfair.
I literally rolled a d4 to see if I just one-shot your character.
Yeah, you did. Like I think you played it very fair. I just got lucky when it counted, and
Well,
like that's the thing. I just rolled well, and I just made decisions, and what part of the decision also was he's a fucking coward.
yeah, I
'Cause I
mean,
ran
that's the
away.
thing. Like, when everyone else was just like, we got shot, but no, we're gonna try to steal this cop's gun, and you're like, I'm gonna go back and hide in the cell. It's like, that's what caused your character to live in that situation. It wasn't it wasn't because he rolled any dice. It was literally, I'm gonna run away and stop being a threat. And then the cops were just like, all right, we killed a few people, you all stay here, close the door, you know. Like, and in the survival situation, like, you rolled, I tried to one-shot you with a giant mutated grotesque boar. Other players got one shot by that boar, but you made the reflex save.
I made the reflex save, and then we double nat 20'd it.
That was
Like,
also sick.
That was so sick. Yeah, it was. I gotta say, like, granted, I've only ever had the 2. I don't think I've ever had an experience in tabletop that I have, I guess, but it's just extended. You know, the Garvey section of the children's campaign that we did way back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
How tense and anxiety inducing that was.
Mm-hmm.
Picture that for 4 hours.
Yeah.
That was me. That was me tense for 4 hours, like, especially near the end of like, oh my fucking god, how long is he gonna live? Or how long, when is Cam gonna finish his path? Because I thought I was gonna get out of here, and then a New Game Plus, and I'm doing another shit. And I was like, god damn it. He keeps going, and everyone else is dying by droves, and here I am with one guy. It was insane.
For a player who has a very bad reputation, or a very good reputation, depending on how you look at it, for characters dying under my watch, you got that skeleton through a lot.
No, here's the thing. I had to kill him first. I had to be a skeleton. You couldn't kill him. He's already dead.
I've never killed you twice. That's true. I think you found the cheat code.
I just have to play an undead. That's the cheat code. I am genuinely like so fucking pumped to play this stupid fucking skeleton.
Yeah,
I'm so into it.
I'm excited. I'm excited for that. I'm also excited for the stuff we've been talking about, mutants and masterminds.
I am too.
There's some really cool stuff going on there as well.
I'm excited because I think I think we have some really fun ideas, and I'm also like, for this short campaign, this is what I'm hitting with like I have a character and a character arc fully planned out for like a 10 session thing. I think it's a really fun story to play as the anti-hero who had childhood goals of becoming a superhero, couldn't achieve them because like the real world exists, man. Superheroing makes you no money. and then like turned into like the merc style like anti-hero,
Yeah.
and then like falling out of that again. I think it's a really fun idea. I think
Yeah.
we're gonna have a lot of really fun like meshing of everyone. All the characters everyone was like pitching of like, just from what I was hearing so far, sounded like everyone was gonna interact really fun.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that. We'll be starting the meetings and masterminds, by the way, not next week because that's gonna be Plague Watch Session 0 Part 2 because we didn't get through all the endings that we needed. Granted, a lot of people have their characters already, and a lot of people have some really solid characters. But hey, a whole nother session of making characters. Who knows?
I'm like, on one hand, I'm like, well, yeah, none of these people will live. On the other hand, I'm like, I do kind of want to roll on the spinny wheel.
Yeah, true.
I never got to touch it.
You never did. Never got to be on the wheel of ancestry.
I'm not upset about that because I got a really fun character out of it. But like, yeah, I can't wait also because I'm gonna have to look at some exemplar stuff because I know exemplar changes your appearance
Some of the stuff,
a
yeah.
little bit.
So,
Like some of the icons, like the body icon, I
mm-hmm.
know, and like I'm gonna have to have an idea a little bit. So I'm very curious and very excited. I have an idea of what he's gonna look like already, and so when we start doing art stuff, I'm actually gonna have like I'm gonna have stuff for it.
Yeah.
I've
So
also commissioned art before, so it'll be a very easy process on my end.
yeah, and that's as well. We're gonna get art for the characters, and I'm gonna get art for the scene that we're gonna have here on stream. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be the highest production live play we've done for the channel so far, and I'm very excited to get that done. I have a lot. I have a lot to talk about in the next few weeks, and all this in addition to eventually I have to start looking for work so I can support my new baby girl who will be coming out coming out. We're coming out with the baby edition.
Yo, when the baby drop
the
in,
baby drops in early January.
do we get day one DLC?
I hope not. I hope she's perfect as she comes.
Where's the battle pass?
So you know, there's a lot of really good tabletop stuff coming out in the near future on this channel, but like for tabletop in general. I'm super stoked to get to a lot of this, to check out the Cosmere RPG and everything like that, to really expand the channel. There's definitely been an interesting conversation that's happened on Twitter recently, because some content creators have been saying, well, I was covering Pathfinder or Starfinder, but not a lot of people were as interested in that, so I'm just going to go back to doing Pathfinder stuff again. And that made me think for a moment of just like, if you're trying to do tabletop stuff and you choose not to do variety to cover one core game, one, why pick Pathfinder? First of all, like, I feel like my channel has legitimately been built up by variety content. I know Oyman, who's been here for a while, joined for the Lancer, and I know a lot of people have joined for various games I've talked about so far, and will join for any future games I end up talking about. Will my videos ever get like a ton of views? Maybe not, who knows. But I do know that a lot of my videos will get views regularly moving forward, as anyone who looks up for a new game will find my channel. Anyone who's excited for a new game coming out will find my channel. And anyone who's looking for some interesting new games will use my channel to find those games. Oh, I know you're from Pathfinder Lancer too. Okay, fair enough, I suppose.
Fair. I mean, that's still something. Like, because I know I have a similar thing too. It's like I have people that join specifically. I get a lot of people joining in specifically because of Lancer, because of Vampire the Masquerade. Like 40K is the brunt of my stuff, but like those have built up a lot of people, and I don't know, man. I think I understand it if you're making a like a bank off of YouTube and like it's your full job that like generates you a lot of money. I just also think a lot of YouTubers are really, really hard baked into the numbers game of it to the point where they start gaslighting themselves into fake information. Where it's like I got to do it like this, or else the algorithm's gonna punish me. It's like I don't know. Is that true? Who knows? YouTube hasn't given us data on it like, at all, so there's very little like evidence for a lot of these like assumptions people are making. It's like the one I always think of. My example of it is the idea of with the origin of the words that are like unalive or like any of those like safer words
Right.
were born from people literally tricking themselves and lying to themselves that their content was being lower viewed for like true crime stuff because the TikTok algorithm was censoring their content. No, there's nothing in place that does that. Like it's just not a thing TikTok does. It's purely because just no one was watching their content.
Yeah.
But they were saying that they were shadow banned, so they felt better about it. That's what I think about sometimes. Where I'm like, I feel you could just make some videos that slow grow. Like that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is as much as I want my channel to be like boom 20k subs, you know, boom this, boom that or whatever. I would much rather my channel be a reliable source for people to find interesting new tabletop content, find new content on the games they like, and be a channel that they know what kind of content is coming out next, rather than a channel that like you never know because they don't make regular content on things. They only talk about like news. They only talk about the next travesty, the next thing that just got worse in whatever, you know. I would much rather be that channel where people are like, I can't wait for new Lancer content to come out. Which, by the way, I'm sorry, Lancer viewers. I'm sorry, Fabula Ultima viewers, for the massive stint of nothing but Pathfinder, then Starfinder. I gotta do the things that are popular when they're popular, but I will come back to those hopefully soon. We'll see how the Cheonshot character guide, when it finds me and how it finds me. At the moment, I'm planning on trying to get the Lancer content, at least get the Gilgamesh out, because that's new and interesting, and I think is really cool. Also, I want to cover the remainder of Starfinder 2 classes that are available, because legitimately, if any of you have seen any of my other Starfinder videos, they're really good. The Core Finder grind doesn't stop, though. Holy shit. How does Paizo do this? Exactly. So, you know, like,
I'm impressed with them.
I got a lot of cool stuff to talk about when it comes to Pathfinder or Paizo-related content in general. But I also have some very interesting content to talk about. Lancer. Also, the Cosmere RPG. Like, as soon as I get a little bit of breathing room, I'll be doing some other content as well. Also, I just need to get my green screen back up, as right now you guys have the pleasure of seeing some of my board games. And also the cat box very gloriously there to my side. So we'll get the green screen up soon again. And honestly, we got really good stuff coming up. We've hit about the end of the stream at this point. So Alex, is there anything you want to leave us with before we head out today?
Yeah, for once, I actually have stuff. Because tomorrow I am going to be recording a video, finally. It's been a while. And so I'm putting out content again. I have stuff. I just made a fuck up. I got a real nice new mic, and then I bought the wrong like adapter like an idiot. I was like, yes, I need a male XLR to 3.5. It's like, no, I needed the other one. I just fucked it up. So tomorrow is when Amazon will give me my package, which is exactly what I was going to record anyways. So it doesn't stop me, which is really nice. But yeah, I'm going to record something tomorrow. And then after that, I'm going to, after I put out a video of a script I've had written for a little bit, I am going to work on a Stormlight Archive video. I'm going to break down the world of Roshar. And so if any of this, us talking about the Cosmere RPG, has got you interested of like just what is the world itself, like what's the concept of it, go check that out. I'm going to do my best to summarize what the fuck Roshar is, and then later break down the Knights Radiant and a little bit of how the magic works. Because that has to be its own separate video for how complicated and different it is.
So, good stuff from both of us. I'm excited to see Alex back in the content. I mean, you've been doing generally fine despite the hiatus.
Oh yeah, no, I've been growing significantly well enough to where like I've just I don't know. I haven't put out a single thing. It's just growing.
Your
Super
Trench
well.
Crusade is at 41k views now. Jesus.
It's been doing well. It's been growing. Also, yeah, before we leave, no, it is not that shadow banning isn't real. It's that people make up reasons for shadow banning that is not part of social media. That is what I mean. It is people make up reasons because they want to say they're being shadow banned when in reality no one's just watching their content for some reason. It's a happier lie that they can say to themselves to make it feel better that either that people aren't watching their stuff. Like that's just it. Sometimes it's true. It is literally true. They are being like restricted in some way algorithmically. A lot of times it isn't. That's where the beginning of the whole the point I was making, the whole unalived thing. There's literally no evidence behind any of it. It's collective just misinformation. But yeah, my channel's been doing very well. It's been pumping, and so like I've been like the whole time I've just been like I just need to put out a video before that trend line starts going down.
Yeah.
So I've been gaining like over like 10 subs a day, so that's been helping.
Yeah, honestly, when I start producing regularly again, which hopefully is soon. I posted 2 videos this week, but I would like to get to like 4 videos again. Hopefully we'll be doing the same. We're on the home stretch for 10k pretty much. We're already a quarter up on 7k. We got a whole 1,000 last month. I got 2 big books. I'm anticipating worst case scenario, I'm going to be in the upper 8,000 mark sometime by the end of the year, if not hitting 10,000 by the end of the year. And once we hit 10,000, things change again. More people will get to see the channel because the algorithm will be like, hey, this person's got a decent amount of views now. It's also cool because we recently hit like 1 million views and we're already almost 100,000 up to the next mark. So like it's evident that the channel's got more views, got more people interested in it, and we've been getting a decent number of subs every day. So yeah, this is the point where the channel's really gonna start growing a bit faster every month or so. I'm excited to have you all join me on the journey, and hopefully we get some cool opportunities in the future. But that's gonna be it for us. Thank you all so much for watching. Check out Alex's channel. You can find it linked on my main channel page, or
just look up Glue Boy or Trench Crusade. You'll probably find me.
True, yeah.
I'm like the one Trench Crusade video that isn't shitting on it for like being woke or whatever. But no, I'm gonna put out more stuff on Trench Crusade too. So if you like that world, stay tuned because it is genuinely sick, and they're making new stuff for it. And I've been looking at it in the sidelines, and I'm like, ooh, I gotta start making videos again. So I'm getting back.
But we're gonna say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.